Starting in Zurich, I cycled to Paris, Brussels, Luxembourg and back home to Switzerland. On this tour I visited 5 European countries. I went to many famous places in the cities and of course I spent most of the time cycling through the countryside. The landscapes were absolutely breathtaking. I was very lucky to see many amazing sunsets and I made sure to eat some proper food every once in a while. One of the highlights was meeting new people. Overall, it was an amazing trip, but unfortunately, not everything went smoothly.
This night was horrible. I had to puke at about 11 p.m.
I'm so pissed off right now. I can't believe that this just happened.
Good morning from Zurich. Beautiful weather today. Around 600 kilometers until Paris. Let's do it.
My bike was ready and the weather couldn't have been better. I was at a spot called Bellevue, which means beautiful view. My first stop was the Opera House, which was built in the year 1890. Standing on the Münsterbrücke, you have a nice view of the river called Limmat. East of the river you can see the Großmünster, which was built more than 900 years ago. On the other side of the Limmat is the Fraumünster, which is even 250 years older than the Großmünster. Here you can see the Paradeplatz, which is one of the most expensive locations in the whole country and home of the Universal Bank of Switzerland. The Lindenhof is also famous amongst tourists. From this spot you have an amazing view over the city. After the sightseeing, it was time to leave Zurich. The first few meters of riding were not that beautiful. After about 20 minutes I drove past Sulke, the IT company I used to work for. I was really happy to be on this adventure instead of sitting in front of a desk and writing code. Unfortunately, it didn't take long until the first stupid mistake happened.
I just fell and I'm not even an hour in. Look at that.
I was lucky that my elbow wasn't bleeding as well. I had recently bought click pedals and as you can see, I needed some time to get used to them. I had quickly stopped and when I wanted to start riding again, I leaned too much to the right. The problem was that I was already clicked in with my right foot, that's why I fell. Soon after I made it to Baden, where I had an amazing view while crossing the bridge.
I will adjust the height of my saddle. I recently had some problems with my knee and I hope this will help. Now let's eat something.
I decided to take a break because of the beautiful view. For lunch, I prepared some tasty sandwiches with ham. There was a lot of pollen on my shoes, they were already a bit yellow. After the lunch break, the first uphill awaited me. That's always a big strain on my knee, making sure that my saddle was high enough was definitely a good idea.
I think I made it to the top. I can already feel my knee, which is not good at all, and it's also quite warm, but at least the weather is amazing.
On my bikepacking trip last year, my right knee caused a lot of trouble. I was really afraid to face the same problem again. Last year I was in the mountains. It's not a coincidence that I picked a flatter route for this trip. The less difference in height, the better for my knee. At the top of the hill I wanted to fly with my drone, but unfortunately I was not able to connect my phone with the controller. Soon after I made it to another river called Rhein.
Wow, look at that. So beautiful.
By the way, the European cycling route 15 follows this river from the Swiss Alps all the way to the Netherlands. This is also something I considered to do. In the supermarket I bought a new cable to connect my phone with the drone, but it still didn't work. As you can see, I was not amused. At least my wound had stopped bleeding in the meantime. Afterwards, it was already time to search a spot for the night. I decided to go on the other side of the river.
And now I'm in Germany.
Already on the first day of my tour, I made it to another country, so besides Switzerland, Germany was now also part of my journey. I decided to go into the woods to set up my tent. I had a good feeling as I didn't see anyone.
So, 7 hours in, almost 90 kilometers. Found a spot to set up the tent. To be honest, I'm still a bit upset about the drone, but I'm glad that I have a spot for the night, and now I'm really looking forward to dinner. It's always such an awesome feeling to switch from these shoes to these ones. This is so much better.
For dinner, I ate an apple and some hummus with bread. Afterwards, I made sure to go to bed early.
Good morning. First night was not great, but okay. At least I have beautiful weather today again. Let's do it.
For breakfast, I drank some chocolate milk and ate hummus with bread again. After packing all my stuff, it was time to leave. Since my drone wasn't working, I wanted to send it home by post. Unfortunately, this was not possible because everything was closed as it was 1st of May. So I knew I would have to carry 900 grams for the rest of the trip for nothing. That really sucked. At that point I was in Basel and about to leave Switzerland for at least the next 2 weeks.
Oh my god, look at that. On the left side it's okay, but on the right side it's loose. And now I can't shift anymore. That's a really big problem. Shit. Now I will go to a mechanic. Hopefully he can fix it.
I called about 4 repair shops and none of them responded. I was about to lose hope. When I finally got an answer, I was very happy.
That's the entrance. Looks a bit shady. But the service is what matters now.
Luckily, it was only a small problem. He was able to fix it very quickly. That's his contact. I can highly recommend calling him if you have a problem in Basel. I was very happy that my bike was working again. It took me 15 minutes to get back to the place I had been before. In total, I lost only about an hour with this incident. I was very surprised about that.
I was waiting over there before. And now I will cross a bridge at the border of Switzerland, Germany and France. Made it to France now.
I was really excited about France. This was the first time I would spend a lot of time in a country before leaving it again. Let's do a short quiz. How many people live in France? Is it 47, 59, 68 or 74 million people? I give you 10 seconds to decide. My guess was C, which is the correct answer. With almost 70 million inhabitants, France is much larger than Switzerland with 9 million. However, the population density in Switzerland is higher because it is geographically a much smaller country. I noticed this difference immediately on my first few kilometers in France. I liked that there was less civilization and traffic and more nature.
It's so nice to finally be in nature.
It was already time to eat lunch. I ate the rest of the bread, some nuts with wine berries, and of course some chocolate. When I can eat, I'm always very happy, as you can see. After the break, I continued cycling through the forest. The path was straight for around 10 kilometers. That's something you would never see in Switzerland. I was running low on water, so I desperately needed a river to filter some. After the forest came an urban area, so there wasn't any water and the shops were closed. After cycling through the urban area for around an hour, I finally spotted a river on the map.
Since it's very hilly in Switzerland, there's water everywhere, but here in this flat area there has been no water for 2 hours. I'm so glad I can finally refill my bottles.
Last year I used a Catadin B3. After catching a virus, I decided to buy a new water filter. For this trip I had the Grail Ultra Press, which not only filters bacteria, but also viruses. That made me feel a lot safer, but it is a little bit hard to press. Afterwards, I followed the river for a few kilometers. At that point, the climb to the highest point of the tour awaited me in a famous region called Alsace.
Wow, look at that. That's quite steep.
In the Alsace, around 150 million bottles of wine are produced every year. In this region, there are many cute small villages with beautiful churches. It was a completely different vibe from what I had seen so far. When you leave the villages and find yourself in nature, the beauty of the landscape is breathtaking. It was definitely the most beautiful part of the trip so far. Time flew by and it was already time to search a spot for the night. Luckily, it didn't take too long to find one.
So, almost 7 hours, 92 kilometers. Today the landscape was definitely more beautiful than yesterday. I enjoyed it quite a bit and I'm really hungry again. Let's eat dinner. Right now I feel a bit weird because of the exhaustion and the constant sunshine. I hope it will be better after eating something.
Like pretty much always, the first thing I did was drying my tent. Afterwards, it was time to cook dinner. My gas cooker is something I would not like to miss out on, especially when it's cold outside. It's so nice to be able to eat a warm meal. On that evening, I was cooking some tasty polenta, which only takes 2 minutes.
And it's ready. So good.
After dinner, I set up my tent and enjoyed the beautiful evening before going to bed.
Good morning. This night I slept better than the first night and today is another beautiful day.
One of the first things I always do in the morning is pack up my tent. To be honest, this is my least favorite part of the day. In the morning, I just want to start riding. Packing up all my stuff always takes longer than I would like. But at least it's an awesome feeling when you can finally start cycling. I actually couldn't believe how lucky I was with the weather. Already at the end of the second day, I was riding uphill. At the beginning of the third day, it even got a bit steeper and I had to ride on the road. Fortunately, there was not that much traffic and it was not far to the highest point anymore.
Made it to the highest point of the entire tour. Let's go!
Reaching the highest point meant that an epic descent awaited me. The highest point was at 730 meters above sea level, whereas last year it was at more than 2,200 meters above sea level. I was really glad to be in a flatter area this time. After the descent, I spotted a bakery and bought some quiche, an eclair and a sandwich for later. Having not eaten much breakfast, it definitely gave me enough calories to keep going.
I'm in food heaven right now. I'm actually quite full and it was really difficult to decide what to buy because everything looked so good.
After the short break, the downhill continued. I was riding on a beautiful cycling path that was far away from the traffic and showed the Alsace from its best side. From a cycling point of view, this was one of my favorite sections of the entire tour.
Wow, look at that. Really beautiful. But it's really hot today. Tomorrow it should be a little bit cooler. I'm really looking forward to that.
After riding through the countryside for a few hours, it's a nice change to be in a city again. In Épinal there was some sort of bike festival which I had to check out. They set up a small traffic simulation where children could practice. Right next to it someone was selling some Swiss specialties. There were many brands showcasing their bikes and there was even a small airbag. For me it was already time to leave again to explore Épinal further. It's a very beautiful small city, especially the river makes it very scenic. By the way, I filtered water from this river, which will play a role later. After leaving Épinal, I was riding along a canal called Canal des Vosges. Soon it was time to search a spot for the night. I went a few meters away from the canal into a forest.
Almost 7 hours, more than 100 kilometers today. I think I will set up my tent here. Another beautiful day over. My stomach feels a bit weird after filtering the water from the river. I really hope it will be okay. Well, a few minutes have passed and it turns out I have diarrhea. I really hope it's nothing serious.
I rode back to the village to get rid of the water I had filtered from the river. I thought it might be better to filter from the well. It was no drinking water, but at least the water looked clean. Luckily, I had bought 1.5 liters of water. Obviously, I made sure to drink that first. Afterwards, I rode back to the spot I had been before. I immediately set up my tent and laid down. I was not feeling well, as you can see. Even though it was not cold outside, I had to use my sleeping bag already. I went to bed without even eating dinner.
Good morning. This night was horrible. I had to puke at about 11 p.m. But luckily I feel much better already. Now I want to go to the next supermarket to get some clean water.
After catching a virus on my bikepacking trip last year, I was really pissed off that I had problems with my new water filter as well. Luckily, the next store was only about 45 minutes away. I bought some bananas, a lot of water to finally be able to rehydrate, and some chocolate milk, which is actually not good for the stomach, as I found out later.
I rode a few meters away from the store and I'm still not feeling too well. That really sucks.
As my new water filter filters both bacteria and viruses, I was hoping not to face any problems anymore. However, apparently the water from the river was too dirty, so I would say lesson learned. I decided not to use the filter anymore and buy water instead. As I was not feeling well, I made sure not to ride too much and I booked a room in a hotel to be able to recover. For the first time on the tour it started to rain. Luckily the hotel was not far away anymore.
My stomach starts to ache again. I don't like that.
I was very glad when I finally made it to the hotel. With a distance of 47 kilometers, it was the shortest day so far. I even had enough space to take my bike inside. The room was not huge but quite nice. I was really looking forward to spend the night in a comfortable bed, and it was nice to have my own bathroom. As you can see, I was happy about the decision to book a hotel. Unfortunately, I had the stupid idea of eating a chicken sandwich from the day before, which was no longer good. Towards the evening, that made me feel much worse, and I even had to puke again. At some point it started to hail. I was really glad to be inside a building. The next morning I was feeling better again. I drank a cup of beef stock and bought some groceries that are good for my stomach. Maybe I ate a little bit too much. A few hours later I felt worse again. Luckily it didn't last too long. As you can see, it was quite a roller coaster. The next morning I ate a tasty breakfast in the hotel. Afterwards it was time to say goodbye and continue my journey.
Good morning. It was a really good idea to do a rest day yesterday. Finally, I'm feeling better again, and I really hope it stays that way.
I had a relatively flat day ahead, so I was able to start slowly and see how it goes. I felt more or less fine, but I had a bit of a heartburn. Because of that, I didn't feel like drinking and eating a lot, so I had to force myself to drink water every now and then to stay hydrated.
I had in mind to keep an eye on you. Watch you fill the room without a whisper. When we were younger.
The morning passed very quickly, so it was already time to eat lunch. I ate a banana, some rice cake, some nuts, and a Kinder Maxi.
It was good to eat something, but to be honest, my motivation is not that high today, and in general, I couldn't really enjoy the trip so far because I have been quite stressed lately, and maybe it has also something to do with the route planning.
Lately, I had been putting a lot of pressure on myself since my YouTube channel is not going well. I was hoping to relax a bit on this trip, but the first few days that didn't really work out. As there's always something happening, it's actually not that easy to relax on such a trip. Regarding the route planning, I picked the direct routes from one city to another. I actually didn't adjust anything. I used Komoot and let the app do the work for me. Because of that, the route was not always that beautiful. For example, in this clip right here, the highway was right next to me. In such situations, it's also hard to enjoy the trip. Luckily, there weren't too many of these sections. In the afternoon, I was in a very remote valley. I was riding on the road, but there were almost no cars. In these situations, I don't mind not having a cycling path. The countryside in France is so calm and relaxing. I had a lot of fun. It's crazy how every day flew by so fast. Also on day 6, it was soon time to search a spot for the night. Considering I did a rest day the day before, I was very happy with my progress.
So 95 kilometers, 6.5 hours. I feel much better compared to a few hours ago, but after the last 2 days, I really don't know where my body took the energy from to do such a distance, but now I'm really hungry. Let's eat something.
I found a beautiful spot to set up camp. Like always, I dried my tent before it was time for dinner. I ate an apple, a cup of chili ramen, and another portion of ramen. As you can see, I enjoyed this dinner quite a bit. The evening was absolutely amazing. The sunset was just incredibly beautiful. I even saw wild pigs for the first time. That's definitely something I did not expect.
Good morning. After 2 days in a comfortable bed, this was definitely not my best night, but at least the weather is amazing today.
After it had been a bit cloudy the last 2 days, I was very happy that the sun was shining again. It's incredible that it was already day 7 and I didn't get wet once on the entire tour. I was hoping that my good luck continues. With such amazing weather, this trip is way more fun. After about 2 hours of riding, I came across a bakery where I bought lunch and a tartelette fraise. It's crazy to me how all the French people eat baguette. Some of the bakeries don't even have other types of bread. Let's do another quiz. Roughly how many baguettes are eaten each day in France? Is it 25, 30, 35 or 40 million? You have another 10 seconds to choose an answer. My guess was C. The correct answer is 30 million. The French really do love their baguettes. For them, it's a symbol of daily life and tradition. Over 33,000 bakers bake baguettes every day across France, and 95% of French people eat bread every day. At that point, I was riding along another canal. When looking at the map, you can see that I had to cycle along this canal for a very long time. With a length of 100 kilometers, this was the longest canal section of my entire tour. On the one hand, it was a bit boring, but on the other hand, it allowed me to cover a lot of distance in a short period of time. It was already time for the lunch break. The bagel from the bakery was really tasty. Since the ass starts to hurt after a few hours of riding, it's always nice to take a short break. Time passed quickly and I soon started to look out for a spot for the night. It's always very difficult to find a good spot near a canal, so I rode about 2 kilometers east and found myself in an area with many windmills. I found a good spot to set up my tent quickly, as there was no civilization at all.
So 90 kilometers, 6 hours. I've now been on this trip for 7 days and I covered about 450 kilometers, so I hope I can complete the whole trip in about a month.
It was quite windy, which was good for drying my tent. For dinner I ate some tortellini. It was really nice to eat a warm and tasty meal. I enjoyed the gorgeous evening. The sunset was breathtaking. So far the sun had never been that red on this trip before.
Good morning. I slept much better this night and another beautiful day. Let's go.
Well, I'll be your rainy day lover whenever the sunny days end, and whatever the weather, we have each other, and that's how the story will end.
To be honest, I found these canals a bit boring at the beginning, but now I start to like them because they are really relaxing.
I would say it's time for another quiz. How many kilometers of navigable canals and rivers are there in France? Is it 5,200, 6,700, 7,100 or 8,500 kilometers? 10 seconds start now. My guess was B. The correct answer is D. France has one of the most beautiful and extensive canal networks in the world. These canals wind through peaceful countryside, charming villages and historic cities. At that point I made it to the world-famous Champagne region. Every year, around 300 million bottles of champagne are produced. Only sparkling wine made in this region using specific methods can legally be called champagne. I did actually not know that my route was going through this region, so I was quite surprised. However, I was more interested in eating sweets than drinking champagne, to be honest. After the short break, I continued cycling. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 hours later, it was time to search a spot for the night. Since it was very flat all day long, I could cover a lot of distance in a short period of time.
So, 85 kilometers, a little bit more than 5 hours. Today was quite fun and very beautiful. For dinner I will cook some pasta.
Once again, I had a nice view. I even had sunshine to dry my tent. For dinner I cooked a big portion of spaghetti with pesto. It's less hot than ramen, but it feels more like a proper meal.
Good morning, day number 9. Hopefully I can make it to Paris today. Let's go.
I was really glad that I never had any problems with wild camping so far. After packing up all my stuff, it was time to leave. It was about 120 kilometers until Paris, so I knew it would be hard but doable. The road went up and down a lot. Definitely not an ideal start to a 120 kilometer day, but at least the landscape was incredibly beautiful. I could have followed this river, but instead I took the direct route over the hill. Riding uphill is always a huge pain with a 30 kilogram bike. I was really glad that my knee was not causing too many troubles.
Made it to the highest point. This is so beautiful, and I'm also really lucky with the weather again.
The last few days it was quite flat, so it was really fun to finally have another downhill section. Soon after, it was already time to eat lunch. I had bought a sandwich and an eclair in a bakery. The bread of the sandwich was a bit sweet, but apart from that it was tasty. After the break, I was approaching Paris very quickly. Around 25 kilometers away from the city center, it changed from rural to urban. I had thought it might be a huge pain to cycle into town because of the traffic, but there's a cycling path along a canal that goes all the way to the city center. It was nice to see so many people running and riding their bikes. It was an incredible feeling when I arrived and saw the river called Seine.
I finally made it to Paris. Let's go!
It took me only a few minutes to get to the hostel. With almost 130 kilometers, it was the longest day by far. After finally being able to shower, I went out to explore the city a bit. My timing with the sunset was perfect. It was so cool to see so many people enjoying the beautiful evening at the river. In this moment, I was really happy and proud that I made it all the way to Paris. In the restaurant, I drank some homemade iced tea, ate a very tasty pizza with ham and mushrooms, and the tiramisu was amazing as well. In the last episode, I cycled from Zurich to Paris. In this episode, I will ride from Paris to Brussels. However, before leaving, I had a full day to see Paris. The weather was perfect to explore the city. I visited many famous places like the Notre Dame and of course the Eiffel Tower. These monuments were incredibly beautiful. After eating a poke bowl for lunch, I walked towards L'Arc de Triomphe. After walking along the Champs-Élysées, I ate a tasty crepe. At that point, my city tour was already coming to an end. My last stop was the Louvre, then I returned to the hostel. For dinner I ate a steak with French fries and beans, for dessert I had the mousse au chocolat. After dinner I couldn't resist to eat another crepe. The day was very beautiful and a lot of fun, but with more than 30,000 steps it was definitely not a rest day. I ate a delicious breakfast in the hostel. Afterwards it was time to leave.
Good morning. I'm here in Paris. Beautiful weather today. About 300 kilometers until Brussels. Let's go.
After looking at the Seine one last time, I started cycling. As it was Saturday morning, the city was surprisingly quiet. Once again, I was really glad about the cycle path along the canal. I didn't even notice that I was in a city with more than 2 million people.
Daylight goodbyes, cheek to cheek. Pretty people sat out in the streets. I think I'm gonna stay in Barcelona, babe.
I came from here, from Zurich, went to Paris and came back, and now I will head into this direction. So far, time just flew by on this trip.
So far the whole trip felt like less than a week, even though it was day 11 already. I was really looking forward to exploring a new area, as I had learned that the French countryside never disappoints. After leaving Paris, I cycled for another 2 hours, then it was already time to eat lunch. I made a stop at Country Food. I ate some tasty chicken with French fries, definitely something I could not cook myself on the gas stove.
So, I'm now energized again. Definitely not good for my stomach and also not healthy, but it was really tasty.
As you can see on the map, I was about to enter a large forest. The Parc Naturel Régional Oise is a protected area in northern France with a rich blend of nature, history and culture. Despite its natural feel, the park lies just 30 kilometers north of Paris, making it a popular escape for city residents seeking nature and calm. For me personally, it was definitely one of my favorite sections. I was really sad that the forest section was already over. Once again, time passed way too quickly. Luckily, the landscapes were just as beautiful outside the nature park. As you can see in this clip right here, many people do fishing in their free time. France has around 1.5 million licensed anglers, making it one of the most popular leisure activities in the country.
Wow, this is really beautiful.
At that point, it was already time to search a spot for the night. I quickly bought some groceries. Afterwards, it didn't take long to find a good spot.
So, 105 kilometers, almost 7 hours, and I will set up my tent right here. Really beautiful spot. Quite a lot of distance today. It was very fun and the weather was absolutely amazing. Now let's eat something.
As always, the first thing I did was dry my tent. For dinner I ate some tteok, an apple and soy chili ramen as main dish. For dessert I had bought Mikado for the first time in a very long time. As you can see, I was very happy. I enjoyed the beautiful sunset and made sure to go to bed early.
Good morning. Slept quite well this night and another beautiful day. Let's do it.
When I was still in the forest, I saw a wild pig only a few meters away from the street. Unfortunately, I couldn't capture it as it ran away immediately. The weather was perfect again. It was a very peaceful Sunday morning. When cycling in France, you see bakeries everywhere. It didn't take long until I saw one. I bought lunch for later and a sweet snack. It was really tasty.
I've heard the songs of summer singing, like a humming hymn of June.
Let me quickly show you my plan. From Paris to Brussels, I had to cover a distance of 340 kilometers. My goal was to cover 100 kilometers 3 days in a row. In that scenario, I would only need to cover 40 kilometers on the last day. Like that, I would arrive in Brussels at around noon and would have enough time to do some sightseeing. The day before, I had already covered more than 100 kilometers, so I was confident that I could do it again. I was making some good progress. I made it to another canal called Canal Latéral à l'Oise.
Somewhere far the birds are flying, someplace there on feathered wings.
The morning was very beautiful and so far I'm really enjoying this trip. Now it's time to eat some lunch. I'm really curious about this wrap. Unfortunately, my dessert got a bit destroyed. That's so sad.
The wrap with salad and ham was really tasty. The tartelette fraise was probably the best one I ever had. I could have eaten easily more than one. After the lunch break, it was time to continue cycling. It was getting really warm. Already after half an hour of riding, I needed to stop again to change clothes.
Switch to short trousers. This is the first time I used them since day one. That's unbelievable.
The funny thing is that I'm usually the first one who wears short clothes when spring arrives after a long winter. That's why it's very unusual for me not to wear short clothes for more than a week. On the very first day of my trip, I had burned my left leg. That was probably the reason why. After I had cycled along the canal for more than 50 kilometers, it was finally time to leave the canal again. The change in surroundings that came with leaving the canal was very pleasant. I went into a grocery store and when I came out, there was a huge escalation on the street. I had never seen so many motorbikes before. That was really amazing and it came out of nowhere. I was now in a very rural area again. I was so glad that I had already bought food and water because there were no more grocery stores. At this point I have to give a big shout out to France. It's so nice that some of the grocery stores are also open on Sundays.
So, 116 kilometers, a little bit more than 7 hours. Found a spot to set up my tent. 1 hour ago I had to pee the first time since the morning. I drank way too little today, so now I have to dry the tent, rehydrate and eat dinner.
I was really happy to have sunshine to dry everything. For dinner I started with a pack of chips, not healthy but really tasty. Afterwards I cooked some polenta, which is already much healthier. The first thing I did was to cook water, which took about 2 minutes. Before the water was cooking, I added some stock to have more flavor. After turning off the stove, it was already time to add the polenta. Then it's very important to stir enough, and after waiting for 2 minutes, it was already time to eat. For dessert I had some cookies with chocolate. Afterwards I went to bed early.
Good morning. Another beautiful day, only about 140 kilometers left until Brussels. Let's go.
When I was packing up all my stuff, the weather was amazing and the sun was shining. As soon as I started riding, it got cloudy, which was a bit a shame after such a beautiful morning. However, I knew that as long as it stays dry, everything is fine. Another 100 kilometers awaited me. I was really confident that my plan would work out. The morning was very peaceful and the landscapes were incredibly beautiful. I was mainly cycling on roads, but there were almost no cars. After almost 2 weeks of cycling in France, I was really getting used to it. It was a strange feeling knowing that I would soon be leaving the country. Around noon, the sun came out and it was already time to have lunch. It was my last day in France and the first time I ate baguette on this trip. I had bought some ham to go with it. For dessert I ate some dark chocolate with nuts, which was also very tasty.
I feel really energized after eating something, but to be honest, I don't really understand why everyone eats baguette in France.
I do like baguette, but I find it a bit boring when it's sometimes the only bread you can buy in the supermarket. In Switzerland, we have a much wider range of bread, which I personally prefer. At that point I was approaching Belgium rapidly. I was very curious to see what awaited me on the other side of the border. According to my phone, the border was roughly where the red car was.
I finally made it to Belgium. This is the first country on this trip I've never been to before. That's so amazing.
Let's do a short quiz. How many people live in Belgium? Is it 8.1, 11.7, 13.5 or 15.2 million people? I give you 10 seconds to decide. My guess was A, the correct answer is B. With almost 12 million inhabitants, Belgium is bigger than Switzerland, but of course still way smaller than France. Obviously, the landscape didn't change that much just because I had crossed the border. The quality of the cycle path was still quite good. I did notice though that not everyone greeted anymore. In France, almost all the people greeted, and as soon as I entered Belgium, only half of them did. When riding on the street, I noticed that the cars were way less hesitant to overtake. In general, it seemed less relaxed than in France. It was much more like Switzerland. It was already time to set up camp. Unfortunately, it took forever to find a place for the night. As Belgium is much more densely populated than France, it was much more difficult.
I was planning to do a maximum of 100 kilometers today, but it was just incredibly hard to find a spot for the night. Now it's already 8 o'clock. I really hope I can still dry my tent a bit. Wow, I'm so lucky. I could set up the tent just in time.
At the beginning there was only some light rain, but then it started to escalate. I was so glad that I was in the tent, otherwise I would have gotten really wet.
Oh my god, that's so crazy!
For dinner I ate some chips, the rest of the baguette and a pear.
Good morning. I'm so glad I stayed dry yesterday evening, and now it's only 20 or 30 kilometers left until Brussels.
Something that I noticed is that in Belgium most of the houses are very modern, the same applies to the cars. Also in this regard, Belgium is more like Switzerland. In France most of the houses are not as modern, especially in the countryside. The weather was absolutely fantastic, which really motivated me for the last few kilometers to Brussels. The last 3 days had been really hard. At that point all the hard work paid off. It was quite nice to be so close to Brussels already early in the morning. Because of some construction works, there was a huge stair set I had to climb. I was not amused about that with a 30 kg bike. As my tent got really wet, I decided to take a short break to dry it. I was really lucky that the sun was shining. At that point I was already in Brussels. There were only about 10 kilometers left to the city center.
Three and a half days after leaving Paris, I made it to Brussels. Let's go!
The Grand Place is really nice. It was full of tourists. It is amazing how much detail the buildings have. That must have been a lot of effort. In the meantime, I was really hungry. I ate a tasty Italian bowl for lunch. After taking a shower in the hostel, I went out to explore the city. My first stop was a botanic garden. It was not too big, but very well maintained. Afterwards it was already time to eat again. Of course I had to try a Belgian waffle with strawberries and Nutella. When I had just arrived in Brussels, another bikepacker saw me and talked to me. A few hours later, we decided to go for a beer together. This is Sarah. She is from Switzerland and currently on a 4-month bikepacking trip to Norway. It was really nice to have a longer conversation with someone. It's really funny that she's also from Switzerland. The golden hour made the city even more beautiful. At that point it was time to eat dinner. You could really taste how fresh the ingredients were. I had some smoked beef ribs with French fries. It was really tasty. Afterwards I wanted to explore Brussels by night. The sky was still a bit blue. Of course I had to check out the Belgium chocolate store, but instead of buying chocolate I decided to eat some Italian ice cream. Once again I went to the Grand Place. It was already the 3rd time I was there, but every time it looked very different. I really liked the way it looks at night. Afterwards it was already time to go back to the hostel and go to sleep.
Good morning from Brussels. Beautiful day today. 250 kilometers until Luxemburg. Let's do it.
Before leaving the city, I visited some spots that I hadn't visited the day before. I was really lucky again. The weather was just amazing. If you want to see more from Brussels, then make sure to watch the 2nd episode of this series. Afterwards, it was time to leave the city. Brussels is a very nice place. I really enjoyed my time there. After spending a night in a hostel, I had a lot of motivation to continue my journey. During my time in Belgium, there were some things that reminded me a lot of my home country, Switzerland. The special thing about both countries is that they are both multilingual. In Belgium, the official languages are Dutch, French and German. As you can see on this map right here, most people speak either Dutch or French. The German part is very small. Brussels is the only place where there is a mixture of Dutch and French.
Call me home as the ocean throws the water to the shoreline, the blanket on the coast. From the stories old, let the truth be told. Getting
morning passed very quickly, it was already time to eat lunch. I was in a small town, there was a cute little market. For lunch I ate a poke bowl, it was really tasty and definitely healthier than most of my other meals. After lunch it was quite warm, so it didn't take long until I had to stop again.
I quickly changed my clothes because it's really warm today, and so far there's been a lot of traffic. For the next few kilometers it should finally get a bit better.
The quality of the cycle path in Belgium is very good. I think I didn't see one single hole. This allows you to enjoy the beautiful landscape to the fullest, as you don't have to look down at the ground all the time.
I'm now following this European cycling route 5, and it's such a game changer not having to check the map all the time.
As you can see on this map right here, there are many different cycle routes in Europe. I was following the cycle route 5, which starts in England and goes all the way to the south of Italy. As it crosses Switzerland, I could basically just follow this route to get home. The signage was very good, I almost didn't have to use my phone anymore. Before, I had to keep looking at my phone, which was a little bit annoying from time to time. Towards the end of the afternoon, I made it to a town called Namur. It was very beautiful with the river, even though the water was really dirty. I followed the river for a few hundred meters. Afterwards I crossed the river and went grocery shopping. Then it was already time to search a spot for the night.
Let's go! So, 94 kilometers, 7 hours. Found a beautiful spot to set up the tent. Today was an absolutely beautiful day. Let's set up the tent, and I'm also really looking forward to eating dinner.
Once again, the first thing I did was to set up my tent. I'm happy with my MSR Huba Huba. It's a really convenient tent and easy to set up. Also, the quality is very good. I never had any problems with it. For dinner I ate a few nuts, some unhealthy but tasty potato chips, and a banana for the vitamins. My main dish was polenta, so I started with cooking water. The next step is to add some stock to have more flavor. I stirred a little to make sure that it dissolved quickly. Then I added the polenta. You have to be careful not to add too much. After waiting for just 2 minutes, it was ready to eat. For dessert I ate chocolate, followed by some Oreos. It was an amazing evening. I was really tired after a long day.
Good morning. I slept well this night. Today it's a bit cloudy and also quite fresh, so let's start riding.
On the second day, my motivation was not that high. It's crazy what a difference the weather can make. At some point there were a few raindrops. I decided to put away my camera to see how the weather develops. Luckily, it didn't start raining and I could start filming again. It's incredible that I had been on this trip for more than 2 weeks and I had never gotten wet. I was extremely lucky. After about 1.5 hours of riding, I quickly stopped at the bakery and ate a tasty waffle. Luckily, I still had some chocolate that made the waffle even better. My motivation was still not high, but the short break made it a little bit better at least.
Made it back to the cycling route 5, that's amazing.
Somehow I had lost sight of the European cycle route 5, I was glad to have found it again. As it was still quite cold outside, I decided to eat lunch in a restaurant to warm up a bit. In the restaurant I ate a large portion of fries with a burger, it was really tasty.
In the morning I had a bit of motivational low, but now the sun is shining, it's warmer, and the meal was really tasty.
Thanks to the better weather, my motivation was suddenly much higher. In the afternoon it was very hilly, which made it quite exhausting to ride. At least it doesn't get boring when it goes up and down a lot, that's something I always appreciated a lot. Towards the end of the afternoon, I had to decide whether to stick with my own route or the cycle route 5. My own route would have been the more direct way to Luxemburg, but I assumed that the cycle route 5 probably would be more beautiful. I decided to stick with the European cycle route, which was only about 10 to 20 kilometers longer. When I was riding in this beautiful valley, I was really glad that I had embarked on this journey. Sleeping in the tent almost every night and having limited options for cooking food is always a lot of discomfort. However, in situations like these, I always get reminded why I do this and that it's absolutely worth it. The day was already coming to an end. When I reached my destination, there was a German tank on the street that was really random.
So, 87 kilometers, 6.5 hours. I wanted to explore this path, but as you can't get any further right here, I will just set up my tent here. Another fun day over. In the afternoon my motivation was much higher and the last section was just incredibly beautiful.
I started with setting up my tent. Afterwards I enjoyed the last few minutes of sunshine, it was a really beautiful spot. As you can see, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I made my own chair to be able to sit more comfortably. For dinner I ate a banana, some rice cake, a small baguette with ham, then it was time to cook ramen. I really like my MSR wind burner, cooking water only takes about 2 minutes. Afterwards I added the ramen. It's a bit stupid that I carried these ramen all the way from Switzerland to Belgium, I had bought them more than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, my jaw on the right side hurts a bit. That's really weird. I never had that before.
Luckily I was still able to eat. For dessert I ate some Oreos and a donut. I definitely ate more than enough. Afterwards I enjoyed the beautiful evening and went to bed at around 10:30.
Good morning. I slept really well this night and I'm extremely lucky with the weather again. The goal is to do 100 kilometers today. Let's see if I can do it.
The first few meters I rode in the small town, Then I was already in the countryside. It was a big contrast to the previous morning. Instead of cold and cloudy weather, it was already quite warm as the sun was shining. The landscapes were incredibly beautiful, my motivation was very high and I was enjoying it a lot.
I've heard the songs of summer singing, like a humming hymn of June. There's always something around the corner, something more to be found. And I'm sure the coast of California.
Wow, I'm blown away. This must be the most beautiful part of the whole tour so far, and I'm so grateful that I have the privilege to do something like that. Now it's time to eat some snacks.
I ate some rice cake, some nuts with wine berries, a pear to get some vitamins, and 2 Kinder Maxi to give my body enough calories. At that point, I'd been bikepacking for more than 2 weeks. At the beginning of the tour, I usually just ate breakfast, lunch and dinner. However, with an average of 90 kilometers per day, I burned so many calories that this was not enough. That's why I tried to eat in the middle of the morning and in the middle of the afternoon as well. I really noticed the difference in my energy levels. At that point, I made it to a small town called Bastogne. I decided to eat pizza for lunch. It was really tasty. Overall, I really liked Belgium. I enjoyed my time in Brussels and also the countryside was amazing. It was already time to say goodbye. As you can see in this clip right here, I just crossed the border to Luxembourg.
Made it to Luxembourg, let's go!
Let's do a short quiz. How many people live in Luxembourg? Is it 550, 610, 670 or 730,000 people? I give you 10 seconds to choose an answer. My guess was B, the correct answer is C. With less than 700,000 inhabitants, Luxembourg is by far the smallest country I visited on this trip. About 50% of the people living in the country were not born in Luxembourg. This fact is just mind-blowing to me. That's actually one of the highest proportions of foreign-born residents in the world. Luxembourg has its own language. Besides that, French and German are also official languages.
Take me places where the winds don't blow, so I won't let go.
After I had crossed the border from Belgium to Luxembourg, there were definitely some differences I noticed. The first thing I noticed is that it's incredibly hilly. It went up and down non-stop. It was quite exhausting to ride, but at least the hilly landscape was extremely beautiful. Another difference is that there are many benches in Luxembourg. In France and Belgium, this was rather a rarity. In Switzerland there are many benches as well, so that made me feel a little bit like I was at home.
So, goal achieved, 120 kilometers, almost 8 hours. Found another beautiful spot for the night. I'm very happy with the distance. Today was definitely the most beautiful day so far, Both Belgium and Luxembourg were absolutely amazing.
The spot for the night was very beautiful. For dinner I cooked some pasta. The first thing I did was to cook water, which took about 2 minutes. After adding some salt, it was time to add the spaghetti. Unfortunately, I had to break them in half because otherwise I would not have been able to cook them. After waiting for about 15 minutes, the pasta was ready and I had to get rid of the remaining water. Then it was time to assemble. Apparently I didn't use enough water to cook the pasta, that's why it stuck to the pot. I ate the spaghetti with pesto rosso. I was quite happy, as you can see. Once again the sunset was amazing and I made sure to go to bed early.
Good morning. I slept well this night, but unfortunately I have a little bit of headache. I hope it will get better soon. Now there's only 35 kilometers left.
I always packed up my tent first before eating breakfast. I ate an apple to get some vitamins, and pretty much every morning I ate a croissant au chocolat. In the morning the sun had been shining, but when I started cycling it was a bit cloudy. At least it wasn't cold, the temperature was very comfortable. The white markings on the trees is something I have never seen before. It's a very smart idea. I was really happy that there were only a few kilometers left until Luxemburg City.
Made it to Luxembourg, let's go!
The last few kilometers before the city I cycled with Mike. He's from the USA but has lived in Luxembourg for 15 years. I looked around the city a bit. It was much smaller than Brussels and especially Paris. However, even though it was small, it was still quite nice. I was very proud that I had completed another stage. Once again, I had really enjoyed it.
I'm here in Luxembourg, 450 kilometers until Zurich. Let's do it!
In the last 3 episodes, I cycled from Zurich to Luxembourg. In this last episode of the series, I was heading back to Zurich. So if you haven't watched the other episodes, I can highly recommend to watch them first. When I left Luxembourg City, it was already beginning of the afternoon. Unfortunately, I had a little bit a headache. For the trip, I had bought a new phone case from Quadlock. It was really nice to be able to mount the phone directly to the stem. I was also glad that I had bought click pedals. I could really feel the difference regarding efficiency. On the other side of the bridge, Germany awaited me. Behind me was the village Schengen, which lies at the border of Luxembourg, Germany and France. Despite its size, Schengen made history in 1985 when European countries signed the Schengen Agreement. The agreement is about a landmark decision to remove internal border checks across much of Europe. What started with just 5 countries has grown into a key symbol of European unity and free movement. Today, over 400 million people can travel across most of Europe without a passport, thanks to what began in this quiet riverside town. Schengen remains a peaceful place, but its name has become one of the most recognized across the continent.
So, 87 kilometers, 6 hours. Found another beautiful spot to spend the night. I actually didn't expect to do that much distance today. Unfortunately, my headache is not gone. Now it's time to eat dinner.
As always, the first thing I did was to dry my tent. For dinner I ate some bread with ham, followed by tortelloni. I started with cooking water. It's always important to put the lid on the pot. Then I added some stock to have more flavor. I stirred a little to make sure that it dissolved quickly. Then it was already time to add the tortelloni. After waiting for a few minutes, they were ready to eat. After a long day of cycling, it's always really nice to eat a warm meal. I definitely wouldn't like to miss out on my gas stove. Once again, there was a really amazing sunset, one of the most beautiful of this trip so far.
Good morning. I got really used to sleeping in the tent in the meantime, and I'm also really looking forward to another beautiful day today.
I was really lucky with the weather again. I started with disassembling my tent. For breakfast I ate an apple to get some vitamins, followed by a croissant au chocolat for the calories. It was always a really nice feeling when everything was packed up and I could finally start cycling.
Daylight goodbyes, cheek to cheek. Pretty people sat out in the street.
As I was in Germany on a Sunday, all the grocery stores were closed. In France, some shops are also open on Sundays, but in Germany only petrol stations remain open. Luckily, I had bought enough food the day before. It was already time to eat a few snacks. I ate nuts with wine berries, some tuc, some rice cake and bread with chocolate. Additionally, I drank half a liter of chocolate milk. The snack break gave me more than enough calories to keep going.
Sheltered from the rain in Barcelona.
1.5 hours later I made it to Saarbrücken, where I made a stop at the restaurant and ate a tarte flambée. I had another large one for dessert. They were both very tasty.
Now I'm energized again. The weather is still amazing. Let's continue.
Let's do a short quiz. How many people live in Germany? Is it 68, 74, 81 or 84 million people? I give you 10 seconds to choose an answer. My guess was C. The correct answer is D. With a population of 84 million people, Germany is the biggest country I visited on my trip. Currently, it's the most populous country in the European Union. Since my French is not that good, it was nice to be able to finally speak German again. However, unfortunately it was only a very short stay in Germany. Between some of these clips I had crossed the border into France again. The first thing that awaited me was of course a canal.
So, 110 kilometers, 6 hours. Found another beautiful spot for the night. Today was an absolutely beautiful day, especially the last part was stunning. I'm really hungry now, so let's cook some dinner.
I was always very happy when I had sunshine to dry my tent. For dinner I ate some ramen, not extremely healthy but very tasty. Like the day before, the sunset was absolutely stunning and I made sure to go to bed early.
Good morning. Today might be the last day with such amazing weather, and tonight I will sleep in a hostel. I'm really looking forward to that.
I already had sunshine early in the morning. For breakfast I ate a few nuts with wine berries, followed by some bread with chocolate. Then it was time to start cycling. I had been on this trip for almost 3 weeks. My luck with the weather had been incredible so far. According to the weather forecast, this was supposed to be the last beautiful day before it got cloudy. So I made sure to enjoy my ride to Strasbourg, where I had booked a hostel for the night.
Like a humming in June. There's always something around the corner, something more to be found. And I'm sure the coast of California are beautiful right now.
In one of the small villages, I made a stop at the bakery. As you can see, I ate some really tasty sweets. On the terrace, I chatted with Laurent and Matthias. It was very nice to have some social interaction. They were both doing the Hexa Trek, a 3,000-kilometer hike through France. Laurent said that about half the people who attempt the hike are unable to complete it. I was definitely not surprised about that. I really hoped that both Laurent and Matthias would succeed. It was already time for the lunch break. I ate 2 pieces of quiche and a pain au chocolat. I sat on a bench right next to a canal. The view was very nice.
I'm quite full now. So far I ate way too much today, but at least I have more than enough energy to continue.
In the afternoon I cycled along the canal to Strasbourg, which was only about 40 kilometers away. Once again, it was really relaxing to cycle along a canal. Since it was very flat, I was able to cover a lot of distance in a short period of time.
Your sky shines so bright, but to tell you the truth, honey, I just wanna come home to you. Honey, I just wanna come.
Made it to Strasbourg. I'm now right in front of the hostel. I'm really looking forward to a comfortable bed this night.
After the check-in, I went to my room and took a shower. Afterwards, I went out to explore the city. I had a good first impression of Strasbourg. After I'd walked for a few minutes, I came across a muffin factory and couldn't resist. It was a really tasty snack. Then I explored the city further. I always like to walk instead of using public transport. The cathedral was stunning. That must have been a lot of effort to build. Also, the clouds were beautiful. Strasbourg is not as impressive as, for example, Paris, but it's also a really nice city. It was already time to eat dinner. The starter was an onion soup, which I think I ate for the first time in my entire life. The main dish was a steak with potatoes. It was probably the best meal of the whole trip. Last but not least, I ate a lava cake with vanilla sauce and ice cream, which was also very tasty. After dinner, I returned to the hostel. When I arrived, I saw that my tent and some of my other stuff had been stolen.
I'm so pissed off right now. I can't believe that this just happened. But I guess I will go to sleep now.
The next morning, it was a really weird feeling to see my bike without a handlebar bag and tent. My bike suddenly looked very different. The first thing I did was to go to the police. This was necessary for the insurance. As you can see, I was not amused about the situation. After waiting for about an hour, I finally had the document I needed. Since I didn't have a tent anymore, I decided to go back to Switzerland by train. After cycling for 3 weeks, it was a strange feeling to move so fast and watch the landscape fly by. It took only about 1.5 hours to get from Strasbourg to Basel. When I was in Basel, it was weird to hear people speaking Swiss German again. In the meantime, I had really gotten used to French. I decided to change to another train to Luxemburg and cycle the remaining 50 kilometers from there.
So, I'm back in Switzerland. I'm quite mad at myself that I was so naive. That was really dumb. And also after last year, I was really hoping to be able to finish this trip without any major issues. And now this happened. That's a bummer. Right now, I just feel very weird.
Last year, I had to cancel my bikepacking tour because I had caught a virus. On this trip, I was very confident that it goes more or less smoothly. It was a bummer that it had to end in such a way. The day before, I only took my side bags off the bike. It was really stupid that I didn't take everything with me. However, overall it was still a very nice trip and I would definitely do it again. Next time I would take it more chill though. Most of the time I was in a bit of a hurry. So maybe on my next trip I will ride 70 instead of 90 kilometers per day. Less is sometimes more.
Now that I'm riding my bike and I'm not in the train anymore, I already feel much better. I would say let's do one last time lapse for the remaining 10 kilometers. Wow, I made it. I think I did 1,600 kilometers in exactly 3 weeks and I didn't get wet once. So I was extremely lucky with the weather and overall it was just so much fun. But now I definitely need some time to process all of this. Consider to subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it and hopefully I will see you in the next one.